morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on what side of the pond you're on, and welcome to an extra special edition of Across the Pitch. Today, we're going to talk about a highly anticipated list. It's not Craig's list. It's not even Tony's shopping list. It's the Accrington Stanley retained players list. Bridges is excited about it too, right?
Talk about your low budget shows.
The Accrington Stanley retained.
I'm going to kick that dog of yours.
Retained players list. It was maybe a week or two that we've been waiting for this list to come out. And Tony and Darren, first and foremost, welcome to, I guess, our first off-season edition of Across the Pitch. So first and foremost, how are you gentlemen today?
All good. Thank you, Phil. Yeah, it's been quite a while since we got together, isn't it? I'm just trying to track back. It's probably between when the three of us were all on, it's probably, 3 months. There's a lot gone on since.
Yeah, the snow was on the ground, I think, last time we chatted.
I think we were out of the relegation zone last time we spoke.
Yeah, I think we were all fingers crossed, thought we were going to survive, and that didn't happen. So
come on, let's have a quick recap on what before we go on to the list. I know Phil's mentioned the list. So thoughts on relegation? Go on, Tony.
Well, I mean, realistically, I thought going back against that debacle at home against Lincoln, that when they sort of just mailed it in, I honestly thought we were in trouble then. But the optimism in me, the optimist, thought we could get out, and then the losing at MK Dons, I think, was if not the last nail in the coffin, pretty damn close to it. And just couldn't recover. I mean, a couple of results late on, but by that stage, your destiny's not in your own hands. So disappointed, but I think we just couldn't seem to put performances together that warranted us staying in the league.
Right, you, Phil, what's your overriding thoughts on it, on the relegation?
I think that Tony really he hit a lot of points there. To me, like he said, that MK Dons match, that was kind of at that point when I think we all saw that the writing was on the wall. I think that it's one of those things where I always knew that this was going to be a difficult season. Going back to our preview episode, I don't know if you guys remember that too much, as that was
I do remember, actually.
many games ago. But that was actually the first time that I ever predicted that we would finish lower than we did the season before. I just thought that too many League One quality players had left. Cameron Burgess is a guy that I've talked about quite a few times, that I just think, maybe if we had held on to him, maybe if we'd held on to one or two other guys, that we wouldn't have found ourselves in this position. Because what happened early on in the season, we had the injury to J. Rich Bagaloo. We had Nottingham out most of the season, and that really left us without any veterans on the back line. And then obviously we had Colby Bishop leave in the off season. We brought in Matt Lowe, who was supposed to be his replacement. He got injured early on in the season. When he came back, it was pretty obvious that he was never really fully fit. So we never really had a fully fit striker for a very good part of the season. We brought in some loan players. Presley, he certainly got some goals on the board and was a big part of the reason that we were able to win any of the games that we even did. But what you look at is at the end of the day, you have nothing in the back and you have nothing at the front. And then the midfield, which is the one area where we did have some depth, just ravaged by injuries. I think this is the third season in a row, for instance, that Joe Pritchard has had a season-ending injury, and he's a guy that we're really counting on. I know a lot of people talk about, why is McConville playing so many minutes at this stage in his career? It comes down to he was really the only healthy guy we could run out there a lot of weeks, and then you bring in all the red cards, the suspensions. I know at one point I think there was 19 players on either the injured or suspended list all at one time. That's more than anybody's going to be able to overcome. That's more than any coaching staff is going to be able to overcome. Were there mistakes made by the management? Absolutely. But I don't care if you had, Zinedine Zidane, Sir Alex Ferguson, and Arsene Wenger as your three managers. They're still not going to be able to deal with all of those things that I just mentioned.
No, and from just briefly from me, I think you're always looking at players to progress through the season if your stock's risen from where you set off to where to the end of the season. And the players who did come on in some ways and had a good season, for me, none of them were strikers. So I'll just give you a quick list of 6 players who I think the stock has gone forward. Ryan Astley, I know he's a lone player. Liam Coyle had a good season, but had a troubled season with it, various things at the end of the season. Dan Martin, Harvey Rogers, and both goalkeepers, I don't think did anything wrong throughout the season personally. So that's 6 players there, but none of them are strikers. Are really anybody who's going to get you a goal. So all the players who've done well this season, there's nobody. If we'd have had 1 or 2 players, from the strikers or, wingers or anybody else.
Yeah, that's it. It's not even just strikers. We don't even really have any wingers that are a big threat. Lee and Hamilton are probably our 2 biggest scoring threats from the midfield, and they're more like number 6s to me.
Exactly. They're not going to get you 15 goals. Well, they may do in League 2. We'll come on to that, but yeah.
But one of the things I think too is, the couple points I just want to make is I think our disciplinary record was not great because, and I think a lot of it was you could see frustration, yellow cards and red cards and that sort of thing. And if you look at the fair play table, or the points awarded for yellow cards and et cetera, we were dead last, and I think along with injuries you get that, and then you overcompensate, and I think of Liam Coyle for one, because he's such a good player, but it's part of his game that hurts him is or he gets
combativeness.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with having an edge, but you got to be able to control that.
Yeah, you don't want the red mist.
Tony, you'll appreciate this one. Now, I think it's safe to say that Accrington Stanley won't have the Lady Byng Trophy winner this year.
Yeah. And everybody's going, who's Lady Byng? Well, Lady Byng.
Come on.
Yeah, Lady Byng it's the award they give to a player that's takes the least amount of penalty minutes in the National Hockey League. So
in hockey, right?
Yeah, so it's Lady Byng.
Famous most gentlemanly player.
I don't know if there's a Lady Byng, but if there is, God love you, Lady Byng. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to say before I turn it over to you guys is, I thought there was. And this was constant throughout. And I'm not sure if it was because of the constant turnover of players in different lineups, but I didn't see the chemistry on the pitch that we've had in seasons past, where there was relationships with players on the pitch. You could sense that they knew where the person was going to be, pass the ball, and there's just that chemistry when like you see it when Man City when they played the other night and just destroyed Real Madrid. You see the chemistry amongst the players, and I just didn't think we had that this season.
No, I think I don't know. There was an interview with Andy Alton. He alluded to the fact that he thought early doors that we, going to struggle. Coley and Jimmy knew that. The fans knew that, and it was just and I think all the players knew it really. If you haven't got that confidence in a team and knowing you've got teammates who can do X, Y, and Z, and they're going to pull you out now and again, and it was just devoid of confidence, weren't they? All of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, there's different words you can use for it. Confidence is definitely one. Chemistry.
Confidence is one. Chemistry, just having that right spirit or whatever. But it probably all comes together at football, doesn't it? Well, any sport really. If you just get that right kind of mixture, you need it, don't you? And characters. And when we saw, like when Seamus didn't play, I don't think we had a leader at the club apart from Seamus, like a true leader who players just want to follow, and that gives instructions on the pitch. And I didn't see. And I looked for it closely. It don't matter who's the captain or whatever. When we had good teams, when we got promoted, you could have made 6 of those the captain. Didn't really matter. But I didn't see anybody helping anybody else out or giving instructions. There's only Seamus does it.
I think the best thing I can say about Seamus is that I never thought he was a flashy player. You never looked for him to sort of make a difference in the sense of having an impact offensively, but when he's not on the pitch, the team is a lot worse off. And I think that says a lot about him, because the quality of the play drops. Although he's not a spectacular player, his leadership and his just his steady, consistent play, it was missed, and it's one of those things. I think we'll touch on this. I mean, he's one of these out of contract, and I certainly think there's a role for him. I hope they can sign him to bring him back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this year proved more than anything how important Seamus Conneely is to Accrington Stanley. I honestly think that had he not had so many injuries, and say maybe we had gotten 10 more games out of him, we might not have gotten relegated even. We were a different team with him on the pitch. He was the only guy that I can say when he was on the pitch, we were a completely different team. And that's why he's been the captain for all these years. I think it was Dexter Domain maybe that made a comment on Facebook that Seamus Conneely is the most important player that's ever played for Accrington Stanley. I don't know that I can disagree with that.
No, it's definitely a case, and I've got to be honest. Maybe the COVID times, and I had to watch on iFollow sometimes, and then I watched him, Seamus, and I always knew he did a good job and he's a good club player. But when 2 things that stood out to me: one, when I used to watch on iPlaying, and then you get a bigger picture, you're just not watching different aspects. I know you get different views if you're an iPlayer or at the game, but his positional skills were excellent. And then the biggest, like you said, when he doesn't play, that's when you realise what a good player he is.
Yeah, he's and you don't always get to see it on iFollow, and this is why one of the things when I watch it, when I'm there and I'm watching it live, I'm looking at other things than you would just get on iFollow, and a lot of players there play off the ball. It shows you their football skill or the football intelligence, and that's what he has, and when. I think Liam Coyle could have that. I just think right now it's just not there, and we missed it when he was out. But one of the things we just touched on this, and I just wanted to sort of ask you guys in one word. Obviously we're waiting for the retain list to come out. In one word, when it was released, can you describe your feelings in one word when it came out?
Yeah, I'll go for it. Underwhelmed. No, I'm joking. Yeah. It's not. I don't want to get personal about players, and I won't say underwhelmed. Surprised. I was surprised that some of the players who've come from non-league and who are over 30 have got the length of contracts they've got. And I know that the length of contracts has been a big thing because we want to keep security for the club. We want to protect ourselves from people coming in and stealing players for nothing. And that under Andy Holt has been one of Andy Holt's biggest achievements to me, tying up players in the mid to late 20s, good players on long-term contracts. And, we would command a fee. But to me, some of these players who unproven coming from non-league and they've 2-year deals straight away, I've got to be honest, there's no point coming on this podcast and saying, towing the party line. I would have thought a 1-year contract with a 1-year option would have been sufficient. And same for the players over 30. Even Alex Ferguson at Manchester United, anybody over 30, they got a 1-year deal with a 1-year option. And I'm sure they're looking at things like that again. But it just surprised me that we're tied up with so many players who, I don't know, under different circumstances, may have left the club.
Yeah, Phil, what was your reaction?
I would say unsurprised. I mean, there was nothing on there where I looked at it and was just like, wow. I think that, like Darren said, we had a pretty good idea that a number of guys were already under contract. They were going to be here. I can certainly see where Darren's coming from, where, a certain guy comes up, we give them a 2-year deal. They don't pan out, and now we're stuck with them for a second year kind of thing. I'm not going to name any names because I don't necessarily know that there's a specific name that I have in mind. It's not necessarily like that, but like Darren said, there's just some guys that we probably would have gone in another direction on if they weren't signed to that second year. The flip side of that is when you win the gamble, if you sign a guy to a 1-year deal and then they come in and they have a great season, then you don't have the ability to either sell them off or keep them for another year. So, I mean, it's definitely a double-edged sword. And I think what we're looking at right now is for so many years and years and years, Coleman was just gold. I mean, whoever he brought in, for the most part, would pan out. I mean, nothing's ever 100%. But I mean, look at, Dion Charles and Colby Bishop. Those were 2 guys he brought in from non-league the same year. Certainly forget about any off-the-field issues. Those guys could both put the ball into the back of the net. Those were guys that, we were happy to have signed to a 2-year contract. When you miss, then, it doesn't look like such a good idea. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's so difficult to say what the right thing to do is.
Yeah, and to be fair, Phil, I think if we'd have stayed up and we were 5th from the bottom, we wouldn't even be having this conversation and questioning things around contracts, would we? We're critiquing things because we've gone down. So, let's be fair, and it's a very, very fine line and fine margins between what they're trying to do, and I appreciate that.
Well, when you look at the players still under contract, and there's a few names on there that didn't see really any action at all last season, and I think the players that had their contracts extended is a much better list, but I'm not sure how many of those players. I mean, on the players on the contract and extended contract, I'm not sure if that all those players will be back. I'm still of the opinion that some will be sold. Because if the contract I suppose if their contract has been extended, even if there's a wage reduction in their salary, I assume they would still be under contract, but I'm not sure if their salaries can be reduced or not.
I think the ones they've triggered, I think they would I would have thought, I'm no expert, that they will be on the same contract as what they're on. Probably they've been given that, extension to protect the club. And Ethan Hamilton, for instance, I just can't see him playing in League Two. I don't think he needs to at the time, this time of his career, and what a decent player he is. I think he's got to go back in League One for me. So they've triggered that extension, and
he's
to protect the club,
25.
isn't it?
He's going to be 5 next year, so he's not going to play League Two. If he was 22, 23, maybe, but not at 25.
So I think I think when you look at that, I think we were expecting. Well, I think I was expecting something revealing, or something that sort of like, the cavalry riding in saved the day with this list. But it's there's players on there that I think are going to have an impact next season. More so, and I'm looking at a guy like Jack Nolan. I think Jack Nolan could be the type of player that gets more playing time and could have an impact in League Two. He when he was on, come on as a sub, he'd have some good moments. But I think he might be one that we could look at. And I thought the last game of the season too, when Cody Adedoyan came on, I thought he looked well, and I think he might be somebody they can maybe build around up front with and give him more time, and maybe he could shine in League Two. And the same with Matt Lowe. I think he's got to be given a chance, and early. And if he doesn't pan out, within the beginning of the season, they may have to look elsewhere. But I'm hoping the drop in the league will be enough for Matt to cope with.
Yeah, and some of them, like you said, Tony, may find the level due to the relegation, and just because they've had to make such a big step up. Cody, he hasn't played much football before he came to Accrington. Matt Lowe, he played in non-league. And Cisse, we haven't seen much of him at all. We've only 3 games in the season. He's on a 2-year deal. We don't know. Nobody can tell really what he's going to do, can we? So 1 or 2. Well, we had this conversation last year. We went into the season with those 3 thinking, well, one of them is going to have to come off. And I think Cody's got 4 goals out of 30 games. Matt Lowe hasn't scored in 20. I know that some of these are substitute appearances, etc. So, and they're injured, so you can't be too harsh on them. But and Cisse's played 3 games and not scored a goal. So none of them came off. We needed one at least to come off. And if we're sticking with them next season, I'm sure we'll be adding new players in as well. We need one of those. I think Cody and Matt Lowe, one of those needs to really step up really in League Two and make an impact. I hope they do.
Yeah.
Hey guys, while you guys have been talking, I keep up. I've been adding some stuff up, and you are going to have your socks knocked off, if that's a term over in England, with this stat. You know what Accrington's record was this season when Seamus Conneely played?
Go on. Give it to us, Phil.
10 wins, 6 draws, 8 losses.
Yeah, that's definitely survival mode, isn't it?
Mid-table, isn't it?
500. That's top 6.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's top half at least, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, that's what I said. Survival mode. That's the same.
Yeah.
That's just
that's incredible.
Incredible. I mean, we won 11 games, and 10 of them were ones that he played in.
That's amazing.
So I'm just doing the math here. So we were 10, 6, and 8 with him. So without him, we were 1, 5, and 16.
Right. Podcast over.
Yes,
we've
problem solved,
haven't we, between us? Yeah. Let's get Seamus fit next season, quick.
Let's get him on $1 million a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we can.
Well, we need to get it, but like the Darth Vader the bath that the Darth Vader goes in to get like 10 years younger.